we are trying to see what suits this customer best at this point of time, right? Today he might be shown people you may know, and tomorrow it could be Facebook events, depending on. So I was thinking, every customer would go through an algorithm, and this algorithm would decide what to be shown, right?
Okay, so Kishore, pretend that I am the interviewer, okay? And talk to me as if you are in the real interview. So how would be your process, right? You need to have a structure. So tell me, I'm asking you this question and say, okay, this is the way I'm going to structure, this is the way I'm going to think about it.
Okay. Let's see.
I can give you a hint.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll take that.
So start by deconstructing the question, okay? And so here you have newsfeed, right? And then how do you decide between people you may know and Facebook events, right? So the first thing is that you need to be on a basic understanding of what those mean, right? To start from like a basis.
Okay.
So if you start, start with, okay, newsfeed. Let me start, with newsfeed. What is the problem that it solves? What's the purpose? What's the goal? And then maybe you start thinking, okay, so now what is the other stuff?
So basically a clarifying question.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Clarify.
Let me understand this right. News feed for a Facebook on a Facebook page, as I understand, it's kind of a home page for every user that logs in onto the Facebook platform. The feed that's basically shown to this customer it could include updates from their friends. It could be status updates or some of their friends posting on their Facebook page. So as I understand, this is the news feeds that I am talking about. It's kind of a clarifying, hey, this is what I understand about news feed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. All right. So let's go into, what do you think, what's the goal of newsfeed? What's the mission? Let me put it that way. What's the product mission?
Connecting people.
Connecting people. That's very broad, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking up on the Google. Basically, the mission of Facebook is to bring the world closer together.
Oh, that's the company.
Building community.
That's a different story.
Would it?
Okay, so maybe somebody can jump in, help Kishore.
Would it be updating people on what's happening in their friendship circle?
Yeah. It's updating people on their network, updating people about their friends. But what's the point?
Engagement.
Yeah, but make it a little bit more personal, right? I mean,
connecting people.
Yeah, to get them to to connect, to get them to connect, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask also, what is the current goal? Are we using the newsfeed? Is our aim right now overall to get more users onto Facebook, to sign up to Facebook? Is our user a brand new user who just joined Facebook? Are we trying to help this person build a network? Are we trying to build engagement with people who have been on Facebook platform already, have some friends and connections, and we're trying to get them to explore the local areas and events? What is our goal right now? Are we trying to build the platform in terms of building more user numbers, user counts, bringing more users into it?
And what is the purpose of that question?
The purpose of my question is to find out what is the goal that we're trying to target, because the goal gives us a why into why we want to, whether we're displaying events or display suggested friends.
Okay. So that's what we're trying to find out here, right? So first of all, what is the purpose of newsfeed? what's the goal of newsfeed? Is to connect people. But why, right? And so, well, because
the question
of the business, right?
in addition to the newsfeed, why?
I don't know what are you trying to arrive at?
I'm trying to arrive at a question in terms of what is our goal in why we're weighing whether we should be displaying events versus suggested friends, because that we could tailor newsfeed to either depending on our end goal for our user is.
So right, and the interviewer is not going to answer that, right? So, but that's the question that you will ask here, which is, what is the purpose of showing people you may know, and what is the purpose of showing Facebook events? Okay, so but let's continue with this conversation here. So we said, what's the product mission of newsfeed, right? Which is to connect people. What else can you say when you're talking about this this problem? In the conversation with interviewer, they're trying to see if you can tie together. What's the product goal? Describe a little bit. How the user uses it and how does it tie with the company's mission, right? And so, yes, the newsfeed is for people to be updated on what their friends does and what the friends do, and connect them with each other. But it also has other things, right? It's a way also for Facebook to show them other features that are happening, in the platform, just like with people you may know in Facebook events. And how does it tie with the mission? So can somebody jump in? How does it tie with the mission of Facebook?
Are we going to write down the mission of Facebook? I thought the mission. Someone said that, right? I just don't recall that. Mission of Facebook is to connect people.
Yeah, if you can express a little bit more, which
is basically they even state that the mission of the Facebook is to bring the world closer together and to build a powerful community.
Yeah.
Right.
Build community, enable people to build community and bring world closer together.
Yeah.
So newsfeed helps in that mission. It helps people understand what's happening in their friends' world.
Right.
It helps people understand what's happening in their communities.
Right.
It allows them to participate there, contribute to their, and basically helps the Uber Facebook mission of bringing communities and friends together.
And that's a nice way to describe it. When you're in the interview, they're trying to think whether you're thinking, you're connecting all the dots.
Right.
And so, okay, so, and then you get here and you say, okay, so newsfeed, fits within the mission of Facebook. Now let me move on into, then why is the reason, of showing people you may know in Facebook events, right? So now here we come into like, what's the purpose of showing people you may know on the newsfeed? And if somebody can jump in and give some opinion on that.
The way Facebook works is that the broader network, or the more people you engage with, the more the sense of community prevails, right? So if you only have 5 friends, for example, then you can only engage with them. But if Facebook can help you connect with more people, can help you find out more of your friends or acquaintances on the platform, then we are again aligning with the broader Facebook mission of bringing people and communities together.
Exactly. So it helps you find more friends, right?
Right.
Now, the question is, okay, so it helps you find more friends. What we're going to arrive here then is like, all right, so keep that in mind, okay? So it fits within the purpose of Facebook. What's the purpose of Facebook events?
purpose of Facebook events is to tell your friendship circle about the events happening in your environment, so you can invite them to that event. Another purpose of Facebook event is for you to find out what events are happening in your local communities, based on your interests, based on what events you may have participated in the past.
Can you summarize that maybe in a short sentence?
The purpose of Facebook events is for you to figure out what's happening in your communities which is of interest to you, so you can reciprocate to those invitations and participate in those events in a meaningful manner.
Okay, so it's sort of like, it seems like the purpose is to strengthen those relationships, right?
Yeah.
With friends.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I would consider events as a two-sided market, and for users, they want to discover like local events, and also on the other side, for business, they want to connect with users through events.
Okay. There's another side of it, which is the business, which is, you know, enable businesses, organizers of events, let me put it that way. Is to basically advertise, right, their events.
I think it's not necessarily they have to do advertise. I think they want to like get people go to their events.
Right, but what I mean by advertise is to let people know the event is happening, right?
Right.
Okay. So, you know, otherwise people are not aware that the event is happening. Yeah, it has some kind of business angle, but you know, they would not show you an event unless one of your friends is going, right, on the newsfeed. So it's not like they show you any events. They show you events only if a friend of yours is going to that event, right? So this is sort of like secondary, I would say. All right, so that's the purpose, right? And does this fit within the mission of Facebook?
Yeah, they fit.
Yeah, to strengthen the relationships between friends, right? From the this perspective. Okay. All right. So now we know that. Now the question is, when do you show one? When is one better than the other, right? And I think here, you know, the big question is, well, what's the ultimate goal? What's the ultimate goal at the end? Can somebody jump in?
I'd say to have people have as many connections as possible and to keep people coming back to the platform as often as possible and spend as long as possible on the platform.
Gotcha. So I would say, you know, maintain engagement, right? Maintain people engaged, you know, and return. I would say it's more about maintaining people engaged, you know, having those conversations with their friends and getting, you know, closer together, which is the mission at the end, right? So this ultimate goal has to fit within the mission of the company, which is getting people together. So I think it's about, you know, maintain people engaged, you know, the most of the time, get them to be more friends, you know, meet more friends and, you know, get closer to their friends. Okay. So,
I mean, but can I interject here, please? I mean, that's the Uber mission of the company, right? As a product manager, you're not always going to make decisions which always align with the Uber mission of the company. I mean, they would. You have short-term goals as well, right? What are you trying to accomplish in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the 1 year?
right.
We also have to look at what's the bigger initiative I'm trying to align myself to is, am I trying to bring in more users to the platform?
Mm-hmm.
Am I trying to bring in more, or trying to create a new marketplace within Facebook so that we have a functionality of creating events and people interact with us for events, a place, an area where we have not ventured before, but we now want to expand there. So I think to better answer this question, we also have to align with what's the goal we are trying to accomplish. So I would actually pose that.
I think you're talking about two kinds of things, right? I mean, we're talking about first the long-term goal, which is engagement, and then saying there are short-term goals.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so and it could be, hey, we might want to like get new people on the platform, right? Other things that you mentioned. What else, Anurag?
I said getting new people to the platform. Second was we're trying to enter a new, new vertical or a new functionality, trying to offer new functionality which we had not offered earlier, or a new feature, for example, events. It would be good to understand when was events feature launched, right? Do we have enough users using that feature? Are we trying to increase users using that feature over time? Like, where are we in that process?
Mm-hmm. And I think this part, which is the clarification, right? We should have asked it here, right?
Yeah.
Clarifying questions, which is frame the situation, right?
Yeah.
Frame situation. Is this, are these features new, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just launch. So that's very good, right?
Right.
Maybe, is there a short-term goal?
Right.
I think there is another clarifying question I would ask. Like, if we want to show Facebook event on newsfeed, what is the event? What is the unit we want to show? Is that like events you may join, or is that your friends is going to an event, or like what is the goal of that unit? Is that a unit? Yes. How would we show the events? Right.
I'm not sure I understood your.
Yeah, I think I would clarify, like, the question is asking, would you show PYMK or Facebook events, right? So by saying like show Facebook event, what's the format we are going to show? Is that a unit showing that events you may join and showing a list of events? Or is that just a newsfeed post, like your friend, like Tom, is joining X event? Like, what is the unit we actually?
I've never seen the other one, but where they show you a list of events, I always assume if there was only one, which is when I see an event on the newsfeed, I only see the event if there are friends coming. But that's a good point. I've never seen the list of events.
I would assume it's similar to like people you may know, which is a horizontal scroll unit. But I think we can clarify. That's a clarified question.
Yeah, it's usually available in the events tab, somewhere on the left navigation menu or something. But then probably on the news feed, it is mostly, hey, one of my friends is attending so and so event or something.
Yeah. So, but if you have that question, you should ask that.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I would ask if there's a different format, right? Good. Those are very good clarifying questions, right? So now we're here, and Anurag, you said, well, we should know what the short-term goal is and all that stuff. And then the situation comes here. Okay, so let's say that this is the feature has been there for a while. They've been showing people you may know on Facebook events. They are mature products, new, nothing new there. Okay, let's assume that that's the case, right? And the goal is basically, keep people engaged. You want higher engagement on the platform.
Right.
Now the thing is, okay, when are we going to know whether one or the other is better for the person? Because this is a personalized, feed, right? So it has to be personalized to you. So what are this is the question that I would ask, is like, what are the conditions? What do you look at, right? And so one situation would be, and I think Anurag, you mentioned, I don't know if what you showed Anurag, that people you may know is really good, to help you find more friends.
Right.
Right?
Right.
The question is, okay, is that good for everyone?
Yeah, I think that's the next step, right? We have to identify the target user. Who are we going to be building this feature for?
So who is the user, right?
Right.
Now, I think that naturally one would think, growing your network is better for people that are new.
Right.
Right? So the user could be a new user, or it could be an existing user.
So is that the only way we dissect the users, or do we also take into consideration like the demographics, the kind of users, their age group?
Whatever you think it will affect, do you think that the demographics, I don't know, right? You have to think about that. Is the demographics a factor in deciding whether you're going to benefit more from people you may know or not?
Right.
I doubt it.
Yeah, even I doubt it. I was just clarifying.
But yeah, I mean, good question, right? You should bring any kind of, like in other situations, for example, the role matters.
Right.
That could be a creator or a follower.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In this case, that's not the case, but there could be something else. I don't know. That's why I'm throwing it out there, right? Right now, I'm just thinking in terms of new and existing, right?
Yep.
That's one situation. So for new, definitely, I think people you may know, and at this point, they might ask you, well, what is new? How do you define new, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I would say, well, for me, new would mean somebody that's been, I don't know, maybe like, 1 month on the platform, but I'm sure Facebook has their own definition.
Right.
But, you have to say something. And then you have the existing user, which I would say, well, an existing user, there are two things here also. How many friends you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see, number of friends that person has. Because you could be an existing user, but you don't have that many friends, right?
Right.
So, and this could be, very short list, small number, or large number, right? Now, this is another consideration that you must take into account, right? Okay, what other things must you take into account for deciding who sees people you may know in Facebook events?
I mean, one could be a user who has been on the platforms for several years, but they don't engage a lot, right?
Okay.
Maybe they check Facebook once a week or twice a week.
Right. Okay. So for, say, it could be for existing users, I'm not going to put here one or the other. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the factors,
Okay.
and then what we can do is a combination of values.
Okay.
And we decide, right? For example, right, so another issue could be, now let's think about behavior of users, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say somebody is a power user and somebody that is not.
Right.
How would you think about that in terms of what's best for one or the other? Does that make a difference?
I mean, power user, I would show events. If the short-term goal would be to increase the usage of the events feature, then I would show the events feature to power users because I know they'll be more inclined to use that.
Mm-hmm.
Showing them friends, people you may know, I don't know how much benefit that would give us because these users would have already made a lot of friends.
Yeah. If you're a low power user, let's say you have lots of friends, but
Right.
you don't really use Facebook that much.
Right.
Would it make a difference to you if they show you people you may know in Facebook events? Maybe not, right?
Right.
So I don't know. What else can you guys think of? Any other factors that you take into consideration?
I mean, I don't want to be the only one who's participating, so I want to give others the opportunity.
Like, how about How about your past behavior in events? Like if you click on events, but then now your click-through rate is going down. Maybe that means that you are saturated about events, right?
Right.
So maybe we need to look at that too, right? I would say interest in one or in events, for example, right? Has it go up? Has it gone down?
Right.
Anyways, you get the picture, right?
Right.
And so what I would do is I probably would talk about this just by saying, if it's a new user, we just pay people you may know. If it's existing user and they are, they're engaged, they are engaged regularly, then they might be interested in people you may know, because in events, because they might want to connect with their friends. But if they have gone to events and now that interest has declined, if we can keep on showing them that, they may get tired.
Right.
So maybe at that point, we just don't show them that. Would people you may know help? Maybe not, right? Either,
Right.
because they already have a lot of friends. So maybe I don't show either, right? So I will just talk about the different situations, or you can create a table and say, okay, so we have users that could be new, or users that could be new or existing, right? You can have number of friends, high or low. You can have power user or not. And you can have interest, growth. If interest has increased or gone down, and then going through the different variations, right? And then maybe say, okay, this is my decision. For the case of new user that is new, is people you may know. For the person that is existing, has a lot of friends, maybe high number of friends, maybe it's a power user or medium user, then, and interest still, it's still growing. I mean, it hasn't gone down. Then I show them events. And then keep going, right? Sort of like your values there, and start thinking about the different situations, right? Some people just talk through it, which I think is probably better, right? Because this can get you into a long conversation. But I think what they're looking for here is, how do you go from, decomposing the question and, starting from the beginning and saying, okay, talking about where these two features are being used, which is the newsfeed, tie that into the mission of the company, right? Which tells you it's all about engagement. Then clarify, question situations. Okay, as you said, short-term goal, long-term goal. What is the format of this event? Things that allow you to make more, your decisions more logical. And then say, okay, now that I know all this context, what's the purpose, of showing people you may know? What's the purpose of showing Facebook events? And then go into what are the conditions when one or the other are better, to achieve the goal. So you pick a goal and say, okay, this is my goal, right? So now I'm going to decide when one or the other is better. And, there's an angle here that I haven't put in there, but maybe somebody can bring in here, is the monetization of events, right? Because to me, that is secondary. It's not that they're putting events as advertisements, they're putting events where your friends are going. So I think that the intention is actually to enable people to strengthen those friendships outside Facebook, right? Which in itself can strengthen, connections and activity on Facebook.
Right.
Yeah. So, there's no one way to do this. But what helps me, I think, is to ask top questions in my head, and then those questions help me build a structure, right?
Right. I think one big assumption which we have made here, is that showing people you may know or showing FB events is the same amount of engineering work, right? Because if it's there's always a trade-off, right? If doing one of them is like 3 months of engineering work, another one is like 9 months of engineering work. Like you have to look at, if I'm going to achieve my short-term goals, then which one do I really want to do?
Yeah, I mean, that gets into something I don't know. To me, they look, if, you know, we are all engineers here, I assume.
Right.
I wouldn't think that one or the other would be, well, Facebook events could be that much more complex, I suppose, because you have the element of third parties of events and the friends, whereas people you may know is more about, well, picking up signals. It's more like an internal algorithm.
Yeah, and they could be the same amount of work. The point I was trying to make is that we should always mention, that, here's an assumption I'm making, that the engineering work is about the same.
Yeah. Yeah, assumptions. What other thing comes to your mind when you're thinking about assumptions? Engineering work? What else do you think you should mention?
Put me in a spot now, so I'm thinking.
How about trade-off? Anybody can see some trade-offs here?
I mean, another thing to consider is, obviously, if you show people you may know, that has a ripple effect. Right? That exponentially increases your user base. Right? Because you add one friend, and that person comes in, and they add another one, then they add another one. So that's an exponential effect on your user growth. So
but at some point you will stop that, right? Because your algorithm is going to be smart enough to say, okay, that's
right. Yeah.
For the user.
Right.
But any trade-offs in here? If we always, let's say, we always show people you may know to new users, let's say, okay? Is there a situation where that is not good for the user?
Yeah, I mean, the user wants to see all the features of Facebook, right? When they are new, they're kind of exploring the platform as well. Repeatedly show them the same features. Then they'll be like, oh, is this all Facebook has to offer? So you have to be cautious about how often do you show it to him.
Right. So
I think one other variable that we could add in as well is what was the previous history of his feed? Have we shown people you may know previously? And did the customer show interest in that particular?
Interest in events and interest in you may know, right? Yeah, totally. But that's an interesting trade-off that you mentioned, which is, you know, some people are new, but they just want to explore, right? It's like giving time to explore versus, you know, like showing them one feature only, right? People you may know, for the new user. That's what you were saying, Anurag?
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, so there's a danger there, right?
Right.
How about showing events to somebody that's an existing user? You know, they might not care for the friends that go to those events.
Right.
But is that bad?
I mean, I think someone just made the point, right? You also have to keep in account when if we show this feature 10 times to an existing user and they never care to interact, like
you're taking into account the interest, right?
Right.
But the other thing I was thinking about is, I guess when somebody signs up for an event, you're already aware that this is going to be shared with your friends, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you cannot complain of privacy.
Yeah, I mean, there's no privacy on Facebook. So
because I was thinking of a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
That respect. Okay, so
one thing I can think of in trade-offs is we haven't talked about other feature areas like groups or friend requests, which also occupy space on the newsfeed. Algorithm should consider those also.
Yeah. I assume that that's a good point, right? Maybe that I don't know if that would be a clarification question. Maybe it is. It's like, are we showing two features, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because there's always a opportunity cost. So if you're going to show one of these, what are you not going to show?
Opportunity cost of not showing another feature, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other concerns?
I think should we also talk about what other metrics we will look at if we do an experiment to compare events and PYMK?
What do you have in mind, June?
Yeah, I think both of these will help improve engagement. So, like for metrics, I would look at like engagement metrics. Like for example, like people's interaction between their friends, right?
Yeah, sure. They will ask. They can say, "Hey, how do you know that you were successful in your decision?" Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so you would expect for new users, I would expect to have, some number of friends in the network that grew, right? And that would be your metric, right? But if it's for events, what would be your metric there?
I think it will also be like meaningful interactions between friends, right? Because like for event itself, the short term, like you can see whether the user go to the event or interested to the event. But in the long term, the goal of the event is to deepen the connection between friends, right? We should also see like in long term whether the friends they go to event together, they become like more like whether more interactions between them.
How would you measure that, right? Because that takes sort of like
Would it be like signups for events and also number of shares or invites?
Yeah, number of shares, signups.
Or it could be just a click-through rate of how many people are actually clicking on people you may know or Facebook events. What's the success rate of?
Well, what you is mentioning is here is, if your objective was to strengthen relationships, then we should be measuring whether that interactivity and connections between those people that went to the event actually, were realized. They're talking more to each other, right?
Yeah, like for example, whether they message to each other or post on each other's profile. I think
what I would do is like maybe you look at a point in time when, it's very hard to know whether a person actually went to the event unless they buy the ticket. And even if that happens, right, you don't know if they actually went. But at least you can make some kind of correlations, I suppose. Let's say, okay, this is the time when these two people were supposed to go to the event together. And then you measure, the conversations, if they increase or not. I mean, that would be one way.
Yeah, and we can compare that with showing like PYMK, right?
But it's different, right? The purpose is different, right? I don't think if you get that's an apples on apples comparisons. I don't think so, right? Because you're showing people you may know to new user, right, to increase their conversations. But if they have less conversations than people going to Facebook events, I don't think that's a fair comparison, because people that go to Facebook events together probably are good friends already, right? Whereas people that are connected through people you may know, they're just starting to get to know each other. So I assume that the activity is probably not going to be as high as the other. I think it wouldn't be fair to compare it that way.
I think like for new users, like I totally understand, like they probably have less messages with their new friends, right? But however, I think for people you may know, we are expanding their friend network in a horizontal way compared with like events, like we are actually do in a vertical way. I think if we compare the total number, it still makes sense, because for PYMK, even for each user, each pair of friends, they have less messages, but they have more number of friends, we are expanding them too.
Okay. All right. Any other input on that? No. Okay. Cool. All right, guys. That's it for today.
All right. It was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.